Hey, Mrs. Lohoff here. If you are struggling to come up with equivalent fractions when you're adding or subtracting fractions, this is the video that you need to watch. I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, let's get into it. Equivalent fractions basically are another way to name a fraction without changing the value. Up at the top, you can see a circle. It is divided into three pieces. 1/3 is shaded. That represents 1/3. If I were to come in and cut each of these thirds into half, like this, now I have 2 parts shaded out of 6. That's what the bottom is showing us. 1/3 is the same as 2/6. Now, how are we going to create these fractions and figure them out when we see them in a problem? Well, we take 1/3. In order to get it into a fraction where 6 is the denominator, you know that we multiply 3 times 2 to get 6. You then have to also multiply the top number or the numerator by 2 so that you get 1/3 is equal to 2/6. The trick is whatever you do to one part of the fraction, you have to do exactly the same thing to the other part of the fraction to get something that's equivalent. Otherwise, you've not created an equal fraction. All right. Similarly, when we're reducing fractions or looking for simpler form, we can divide. I have 6/8. I know that both of those numbers are even. I can divide them by 2. If I divide the top by 2, I have to divide the bottom by 2 also. 6/8 is the same as 3/4 because 6 divided by 2 is 3 and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Let's work on some specific examples. I want you to grab something to write with so that you can practice along with me. So go ahead and pause the video here, get a sheet of paper or a whiteboard, and write this out to work with me. We have 1/4 plus 2/3. First of all, you are noticing that the bottom numbers are not the same. You need to find the least common multiple. If that's something you struggle with, watch my video on finding least common multiples. I'm not going to go into detail with that here. The least common multiple for 4 and 3 is 12. I am going to make new fractions for both of these where my denominator is 12. How did we do that? You have to look at what we did to get from 4 to 12. So we're going to do this fraction first. To go from 4 to 12, we multiply 4 times 3. To get an equivalent fraction, you have to multiply the top times 3 also. 1 times 3 is 3. So 3/12 is the same as 1/4. Now let's do the bottom fraction. The bottom fraction is 2/3. We want to go from 2/3 to have an equivalent fraction where our denominator is 12. We multiplied 3 times 4. That means I have to also multiply the top by 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 2/3 is equivalent to 8/12. All right, now you have fractions where both of them have the same denominator. You can go ahead and add this together. That's not the point of this lesson, but if you did and you want to know you did it right, the answer is 11/12, and that cannot be reduced. Let's do this again. All right, now, again, we have denominators of 5 and 10. They're not the same, so we need to come up with the least common multiple. And if that's a struggle for you, go and watch that video. The least common multiple for 5 and 10 is 10. So let's change that top fraction so it is an equivalent fraction to 2/5, but it will now be in tenths. To go from 5 to 10, you multiply 5 times 2. You have to then also multiply your numerator by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2/5 is the same as 4/10. Now the bottom number is already in tenths. Let's look at the bottom fraction, 1/10. It's already in tenths. I could think of it as going 10 times 1 is 10, so multiply the top times 1. I can do that, or I can just copy it over because it already is the way we need it, 1/10. 1/10 is equal to 1/10. That should not be too surprising. All right, again, the point of this is not to actually add them together, but if you want to see if you got the right answer, 4/10 and 1/10 is 5/10. That can be reduced to 1/5. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to learn how to come up with these equivalent fractions. All right, what if we're subtracting fractions? Doesn't matter, same process. We have to look at our denominators and realize, whoops, we have 4 and 8. They are not the same, so we need a least common multiple. If you're struggling to figure out the least common multiple, watch that video because I'm not going to explain it here. The least common multiple for 4 and 8 is 8. All right, let's look at that top fraction. We need to change 3/4 into a fraction where the denominator is 8. To go from 4 to 8, you multiplied 4 times 2. So you have to multiply the top times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. The bottom number, the bottom fraction, 1/8, is already in eighths. So again, you can either copy it over or think of it as we multiplied 8 times 1 to get 8. So multiply the top times 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1/8 is equal to 1/8. All right, again, the point of this video is not how to add or subtract fractions, but now that we're here, if you want to know that you got the right answer, 6/8 minus 1/8 is 5/8. One more practice. We have 2/3 minus 1/2. Our denominators are different. We can't subtract, so we have to form equivalent fractions with a least common multiple. The least common multiple for 3 and 2 is 6. So let's change 2/3 into an equivalent fraction where the denominator is 6. Going from 3 to 6, you multiply 3 times 2. I have to then multiply the top times 2. I have to do the same thing to the bottom and the top. 2 times 2 is 4. 2/3 is the same as 4/6. Now let's change the bottom fraction. We need to create an equivalent fraction here. We have 1/2. We want a new fraction where the denominator is 6. So going from 2 to 6, you multiplied 2 times 3. You have to then multiply the top times 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. All right, so if you want to do this subtraction problem, is not the point of this video, but 4/6 minus 3/6 is 1/6. All right, I hope that this was helpful in helping you to determine how to create equivalent fractions. The key to it is whatever you do to the bottom number, you have to do the same thing to the top. All right, good luck. If you have other questions or need help, reach out, let me know. Bye.